We're live.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Historic District Commission meeting for Monday, June 14th, 2021. If you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The Frostburg Historic District Commission implements the city's Historic Preservation Overlay District of the Frostburg Zoning Ordinance Section 4 as adopted in 2014 pursuant to the authority granted by the Maryland Land Use Article Section 8 as adopted in 2012 of the Annotated Code of Maryland. This meeting is open to the public and conducted in compliance with the State of Maryland's Open Meetings Act. The Frostburg Historic District Commission is charged with the preservation of historic structures and the surroundings within the designated district in order to safeguard the heritage of the city, stabilize and improve property values, strengthen the local economy, and foster civic youth. Okay, next we will do the roll call. I am the chair, Chair Hein, Vice Chair Joseph Hoffman.
Present.
Bill Determan.
Present.
Robert Rephan.
Present.
Maureen Brewer here, and our alternate Daniel Filer is not with us this evening. So, Commissioners, if you would please review the agenda from our last meeting, May 10th of 2021. And when you're ready, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to
Second.
All right, having a motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, agenda passes. And Commissioners, if you would please review the minutes. Oh, I said that wrong in the first place, didn't I? Yes.
We do.
Okay, so we would now approve the minutes from our last meeting, May 10th, 2021.
Move to approve.
All right, having a motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye. Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes pass. All right, so let us move on to our presentation for this evening. And that would be Jennifer Slider with the Main Street of 167 East Main Street.
Okay, I don't have a presentation. I thought I was here to answer questions.
Well, if you would just tell us about what you're wanting to do, the project, the signs, that kind of thing.
It doesn't have to be powerful.
No.
It's just gonna be me.
It's right.
Yes.
There we go. So, so what I'm proposing are two signs, one on each side of the building. So this is the sign. This is actually our logo that we came up with. So I went to Sean Miller, and Sean's idea is to actually cut around this sign, so it stands out. I'm not really, after I saw the plan and I have copies, and I meant to bring copies for everybody, but I just brought one. But where the sign, where it says the Main Street Pub, there's like a street sign. If you go back one, go back. So the street sign where it says Main Street and Bowery Street, I would like to change that to green, with like white lettering. And then the background, I would like to have black instead of white. And I tried to get the sign company to send that to me today, but they didn't respond, so I wanted that for the meeting, but it's gonna be made out of PVC material, which I think is pretty common now, so. But, so if it was black, it would be, the Main Street part would be in white, and everything else would remain the same, but with a black background. And then it would stand out, on our building, which is kind of like a tan stucco. I think it would look a lot better.
So there would just be one on either side end of the building.
Yes, if you would like to pass this around. So that's the rendition that Sean Miller came up with. But I'm thinking more of a rectangular sign, black, white letter.
Actually, I think they both look good.
They do. Hey, once I get this black sign, look at it, the proof, I'm gonna like it. So what do we do then?
How big will it be?
Approximately 4 by 8.
So are they both on the Bowery Street side?
No, one's on the Bowery Street side and one's on the patio side of the building.
It's going to be clear, not out.
So Rob, when you're coming down, you're going east, down this, and you'll see it on that side.
Symmetrical.
Otherwise, you'll see it on the other.
Yeah, they're basically replacing the spots where El Canelo had his signs.
The view on the screen now would be the patio side,
Right.
and then that's the view where the red rectangle is of the Bowery Street side.
And there's already lights installed on both sides of the building to shine down onto the sign.
I think black will stand out better. And the greens, that's the color of the sign, so
Mhm.
street lamp, so. That's a good idea.
Thank you. We took like a little poll at the top, and that's what everybody came up with. Got everybody's buy-in.
All right, commissioners, do we have any other questions?
So we need to stop off with a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I studied the application and all relevant documents, presentation related to this case, and I'm familiar with the property in question. I find that the proposed changes are compatible with the neighborhood because there's a general compatibility of exterior design, scale, proportion, arrangement, texture, and materials to be used. Based upon these findings, I move to approve the proposal because the use of exterior materials closely similar in appearance to original materials or significant buildings in the district pursuant to section 4.1, J, 1, and C.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Any other questions or anything concerns? All right, having a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Hearing none opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. Is that it?
That's it.
So Jennifer, when can we look forward to seeing the signs up?
Yes, well, I'm hoping before the 4th of July.
Right.
That's our goal, is before 30 days. So, yes.
Perfect timing.
So I just have to really get on some commercial graphics. So, all right.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you.
Thank
We'll be
you.
in touch.
Okay. Nice building.
Thank you.
You can get in, but you can't get out.
All right.
So police.
All right, so that being our only presentation, correct?
Correct.
We will move on to old business. We have some staff approvals, 37 West Main Street, the U.S. Postal Service rooftop HVAC installation.
Yes, we had a company reach out to us about the HVAC system at our local US Postal Service. They need a complete redo of what's existing. The units will have to be mounted on the roof. And there were 2 locations suggested to us. One was on the addition of the post office closest to the parking lot, and one was at the rear roof of the building where the current units are located. So looking at the plans that they supplied, we felt it was really reasonable and rational and appropriate to put them on the roof at the back of the building. That is also a non-historic addition that has been created to really try to mimic the look of the historic section. They did the same kind of archways over the windows you see there. And so back here on this addition, up on the roof is where these new HVAC units will be located. And because of building code, not only international building code, but also occupational safety and health administration codes, there has to be a guardrail around that. So if anyone is ever servicing those units, they can protect it from the fall. So this is the detail of the railing. It will be very simple, but it will be built within those codes to protect a fall. It will have a minimal impact because it will be like that, it's galvanized pipe. So it won't have a heavy impact like, say, a fence with guards and rails. But it'll provide the adequate safety for the HVAC units. So we felt it was appropriate to go ahead and do a staff approval on that, because you can see as we start to scroll through these plans, it's not just the units on the rooftop, it's the entire ventilation system throughout the building on every level.
When was the addition put on?
I am more familiar with the addition, if you're facing the postal office and you look to the left, I'm more familiar with that addition because when that was conceived, there was a very large house on the lot where the parking lot is now, right? Dr. Price's house. And that's on the National Register. And still is on the National Register, even though the house no longer exists. So I'm more familiar with when that addition was put on, and I want to say that was the 1960s era. So it's a pretty extensive HVAC plan, but the only impact is going to be on the rooftop where the current units are placed now.
What kind of material is that roof? I don't remember. Is it?
It definitely has copper seaming
On the addition?
on the main roof. There's copper seaming on the main roof. I imagine it's shingle on the addition, so perhaps rubber.
It's
because
probably
the
rubber,
line
it's
is
not flat.
I think,
It's weird. Nobody can remember what that
yeah, well, it's
So I have a
hard to
question
see.
about
where
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dumpster on Main Street. I know the staff has tried in the past. How can we get them to, I mean, there are rules within the historic district, and that you can't have your dumpster all sitting on the sidewalk of Main Street.
That is true.
And I know it's because it's a pseudo-federal.
Those rules, I was going to say, those rules apply to ourselves as a municipality and our citizenry, but the federal government does not fall under the jurisdiction of our zoning ordinance or our city code.
Most of it, you know, on the sidewalk.
So what I would suggest is we work together and draft a letter to the postmaster? How about we work together and draft a letter to the postmaster and see if we can, perhaps have an in-person meeting or, some kind of teleconference and see if we can talk about
And I
some
know
alternatives.
property is a tough area where we put the dumpster, like, you could put it in the back where it used to be and move the cars up. I mean,
This is true, and
that's where it used to be, so.
that's a good recommendation, and I think it's something we can certainly discuss. I've been in discussions before with dumpster companies regarding dumpster screening. Some companies, the dumpster service providers will not leave the truck when they're servicing the dumpster, so there's no opening and closing of gates.
Oh, I'm talking about.
And so we struggle with some of these issues sometimes and,
Yeah.
and have to find creative ways to work around it, but.
So I was just talking about, it's up here on the, like, a little bit on the sidewalk now, just go to the end of it, swap it out, because it's a teeny dumpster.
Mhm.
Right. Anyway, and then also, somebody trimmed a tree next to, the city map. And I'm not sure who trimmed it. It's like, it looks, you know what I'm talking? It's
Yeah.
like, they trimmed one limb, and now it's like, you should just take the whole tree down, because it looks really bad. Replace it with another, maybe a flowering tree, because it just looks like, well, if you did that, you probably just needed to trim a limb instead of an entire, or a big giant, I mean, just drive by and take a look. 'cause I'm
Which
thinking
tree now?
Maybe the tree right next to the city map.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think there
It
was.
looks really,
Was it, I think that one side was, yeah.
well, and maybe they should, I think we probably should suggest that, I don't know, I think we talked to the tree.
The Shade Tree Commission?
Yes, and see if
Certainly.
maybe we could replace it with maybe a flowering tree. would be nice.
Absolutely, we can talk to our Director of Parks and Recreation, who is staff for our Shade Tree Commission.
Because I just think that's just such a center piece of the city that.
It is, it's a
Historic
nice
area,
reference
it's
point,
just-
absolutely.
And there's,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, they took all that. So,
Sure, those are two items we'd be happy to work with and try to find a resolution.
okay,
My pleasure.
22 South Water Street, the relocation of previously approved commercial site.
So in the past, we're all very familiar with Mr. Joshua and Miss Jessica Seminario Grace. They are the proprietors of the Vapor Room and Yellow Cake Records. And they have decided to consolidate their two locations into one. So Yellow Cake Records is moving into the Vapor Room space. Vapor Room will continue, and Yellow Cake will share the space with them. So we had previously approved the Vapor Room sign with the neon, and we had previously approved the Yellow Cake sign that just hung from the bracket on the front of that building. The idea is to take that same sign and bracketize it right below the neon sign that says Vapor Room. And the assurance is that it still fits within zoning ordinance parameters, there's plenty of piping, and there's no increase of size, there's really no change to the sign, except moving it to that location. So that was another staff approval that we put forward because everything fit within the regulations, and there was really no change other than the location.
What are they planning to do in this space? Is no longer Yellow Cake?
That remains somewhat of a mystery. I don't know.
Do they own that building?
They do indeed. They do indeed. And there are two rental units above there that have a long history in our rental housing program. They're active and registered and in compliance. So, there is some, income producing potential there, and then that commercial space, it's my assumption will be marketed and advertised.
Well, just put shift back, that would be fine.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
All right. Updated historic preservation contractors list.
Yes. So I took all of your recommendations and I looked in Garrett County and Bedford County. didn't bring it to Somerset County, but I think that we've got a pretty good list going here. Anymore, and we would have gone on to the second page. So I think that this is a good start. Like I said, if anybody has any more recommendations, I'm happy to hear them and add them to the list.
The only piece I think we should have is roofers,
Okay.
because roofers, are hard to.
Okay.
You'll notice, Gornall Construction is definitely listed under general. Mr. Rick Gornall of Gornall Construction was the general contractor for the Dante's building, parapet restoration. And we'll talk about that here in a little while. But, because we were so involved with coordinating alternate parking and working with business owners and citizens alike to try to ease the discomfort of everything that was happening on that block while it was happening, we've developed a really good working relationship. And so we have an ongoing discussion about specialists, whether they be carpenters or restoration workers in one way or another. And so he's kind of on the lookout for us for when he comes across people. We do specialized kind of work that fits within the historic district. So we hope that with time, we'll be able to expand this list and really get some good contractors on there who can help people with all kinds of projects.
You know, something that I see a need for around town is looking at the fencing and looking at wrought iron fencing and sources to replace as needed fencing that is no longer usable.
Yeah, that's a tricky proposition.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's noticed in front of the Methodist Church, where the marble pillars toppled, they are restoring that fence. So we've been in contact with them, and they had reached out to us a few years ago about, what do we need to do? And so we put all the resources we had together for that. Technical Preservation Services has some really good information on restoring fences like that. And we found some really great YouTube videos specifically related to cemeteries and restoring the fences that go around certain plots. And so there is good information out there to help in situations like that. And so I'm excited to see that restored fence go back up in front of the church. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, they had a little mini crane out where they put in that the marble.
Yeah, they've got that all mounted now.
How do they?
I should have videotaped it.
We could have shared it on the screen.
Yes.
All right, then our next item is Dante's and Eastern Express outreach and updates.
So I'll start with Dante's, and just last Friday, the last of the cones and the barrels were removed from the parking lane. The week prior, all of the scaffolding had been taken down. I've got some pictures up there on the table for you to share and pass around, but I hope you're really pleased with what's happened there. Not only has the parapet been completely rebuilt, but the sides have been re-anchored, and that's why you'll see some of those specific side photos. And the building has been soda washed and freshened up, and there's been some fresh paint on the floorboards. You had already seen a proposal for new signage across the front of that building. It's my understanding that's the next step. What you've approved is going to come to fruition, and then the business aims to open up in the near future. So that took a lot of patience. Downtown business owners were certainly disrupted during the project. They lost significant parking. But we made sure that the parking lot directly behind the building was free the entire time. Just to try to ease it as best we could. And it's completed now, so.
Big improvement, looks so nice.
Very good protective treatment and restoration, very thoughtful treatment.
And then on Eastern Express, I don't know, some of you may have noticed, whenever they had the damage to the front windows, they had boarded those up to protect from further damage, and they had painted those yellow. In your packet, you'll see a copy of a letter that I had drafted and sent to the owner of the business, just letting them know that whenever they're ready to revisit and, make repairs to the window, that we're here to support them. And those yellow panels have since been removed, and, all is good.
We haven't had any more problems or?
We haven't.
Good.
I think the press that the issue received was probably helpful. I did have the opportunity to look at the police reports. It was inconclusive what actually caused the holes. Some people have very strong opinions about that, but ultimately, I trust the police and their experience, and the cause of the damage was inconclusive. So we wanted to be very sensitive to the situation and let them know that, we were here for them. And when the time was right, we helped. So.
That's good news.
And can I ask about, I went to church Sunday, and noticed behind Postal goods gutter where they put the concrete, the fencing around that is just pieces of road.
Temporary.
Yes.
Yes, the
I would think
original
their
fencing.
insurance company would be saying, you can't do this, you can't have people here. I mean, I was shocked that they,
Yeah.
I mean, just a little kid, because that's 7, 8,
That's,
9 foot.
A small child especially could
Yeah.
easily tumble.
Fall protection is required, and that the fencing that you previously approved has to go back.
Yeah, I was hoping they were gonna do something better than what they had before.
It's probably a part of the awning project that's
Oh, okay.
proposed and
that's
approved.
what
That's,
because like you, I figured that can't last for very long.
No,
Yes.
I could see that, somebody getting up out of their chair and,
Yeah.
taking a step back and, then a step down. Okay.
that's something we'll do some outreach on, just to make sure we have adequate fall protection until the permanent goes into place.
Now, are they still planning on doing what they had asked for in that equivalent or?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's just that the supply chain is so disrupted right now, and building material inflation is somewhat out of control. So I think some of the projects that are previously approved may be somewhat held up until things start to stabilize a little bit, and then I think we'll see the action.
You know, a concern that I still have and one we've talked about before is, as you walk down the sidewalk next to Shogun and you see what looks like building after World War II.
Yes. I was gonna bring that up as well.
And as now we have the train in operation, we have yaks and
Track.
tracks operating, and there's much more traffic with the trail as well. It just is, looks bad.
So we have some good news to relay about that. Allegheny County Tourism, in conjunction with the Allegheny County Arts Council, have identified and garnered some funding for a public art project. And in conjunction with Frostburg First and the city of Frostburg, we're working toward making that come to fruition. The Allegheny County Tourism and Arts Council had identified some gateway areas in the county that could use some improvement, and our depot is one of them, specifically in that area. So we have included in our application to Department of Community, Department of Housing and Community Development, for community legacy funds. Typically, we have used those for facade and building improvement programs. We're asking for some public art money to be able to screen that area with smart work depicting Frostburg's history, letting visitors know that you're almost there, things like that.
Only 100 more feet.
Right. So, right, so our next meeting, for that project is on the 17th. It will be our second meeting. And, we're very much in the idea phase. But we really hope to make that come true. We'd really like to improve that area too.
Yeah.
And with the county's help and identifying it that way as the gateway, I think we can really make something happen.
So are they thinking about using, because I've seen cars parked there, are they thinking about making like a seating area, like a different space, or these are just ideas?
Right now, these are just ideas, and our ideas, in terms of public art, are coming up with a unique way to screen the view.
So not doing anything with the actual property, just hiding the property?
At the moment,
The back
yes,
that we do.
because at the moment, we don't have property owner buy-in for the project. The property owner has historically wanted to install a storage facility in that area, as in sheds for storage, and that just doesn't fit within the zoning parameters in that district. Still working toward property owner buy-in. The property is also for sale, so there are some possibilities there. Unknowns.
Because I was thinking, what is the way that they just opened it up as a.
I think that was the original idea. Yes, a seating
It's
area.
supposed to be like a pizza oven in the back.
Right.
That's
That was the original
That was
idea.
what the fringe could be.
Previous owner.
I have a kind of related to that is, and I think I've asked this before, and you'll just have to remind me what the answer is. Once we approve something, does the property owner have a certain amount of time to complete the project that was approved, and then after that, you know,
Yes,
it's like, in this case, where they started, they demolished, but then, you know, the rest of the project was never completed.
Right.
I mean, how, because now it's an issue.
That's
Because
a
it was
previous
not-
owner, wasn't it?
It was, right, so there was a lot of things kind of going on with that property.
We did do a text amendment, and we updated the time frame for the approval. And I'm going to find it for you here.
Or sometimes it may depend on where you use your approval, if it's late after I decide to remember, you may not be able to start it until.
Right. Right.
And I mean, I think certain things like that,
Makes sense.
you know, but if you start a project, you know, like with the demolition, then,
It says 45 days.
you know, how does that work?
Well, that 45 days is your time frame to act on an application. But we do have a limit on the approval period,
Okay.
and certificate of approval shall only be valid for a period of 24 months. So we do monitor
So
that.
that's a good amount of time
That's really good.
to be able to complete a project.
Right, and after 24 months, there is the possibility of a 6-month extension. Staff would determine if that's reasonable. After 24 months, however, if no extension is requested, the approval ceases. So if someone wanted to even do the same project again, they would have to come back for approval. So there is an expiration date.
I think, Don, I think what you're getting at though is if you have a project that is presented, it involves some demolition, we approve it, the demolition happens, but then nothing else happens after that. What
Right.
is the,
What's the remedy?
is there any, yeah, is there a remedy?
At a certain point, under the terms of city code and code enforcement, depending on the situation, nuisance, property determination could be made, a blight determination could be made.
And I know this situation is complicated by the fact that owners changed and, you know, there's a lot kind of going on.
Vision change, sure.
Right, so, you know, that makes it more difficult, but unfortunately now we're left with, you know, a problem.
Right.
An eyesore, I mean, it's better.
And it is very unfortunate that it's right there at our
It's very
tourist
visible.
arrival destination. It is very visible.
Is Rich Godlove still on that
At
property?
this time, yes. He's one of the principals of the LLC that owns it. So there's more than just him, there's partners that have to work this out too.
Has anybody else seen the pictures on Facebook of that hill? It was one time called McCullough Hill, and there was a covered walkway from the depot all the way up to Main
That
Street.
was,
I
that was
saw that.
fascinating.
And the other thing is, there were no trees on either of those hills,
Yeah.
not one
It's
tree.
bare.
It didn't say what year that was either, but it has to be after 1891, but because that's when the depot was built.
What Facebook page?
Wasn't it on the museums?
One of those like
Because I
Western
think-
Maryland
I think
history,
Liz
or
found it.
maybe, no, it was a museum, it was a
Yeah.
museum.
That was a very long
It was-
covered bridge.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Covered walkway,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
You know, it would be something that people would say, hey, you've seen that covered walkway?
We haven't
Speaking of
given up
that,
our dreams of the lift.
that's what I was just gonna ask you about the incline plane.
We have not given up those dreams, it's just that that project got shelved because the price of steel went so high. And based on our grant regulations, we have to buy American. And the cost of steel alone blew the budget to the tune of over $1 million.
Wow.
That's how bad that impact was.
And that was probably when you calculated it before. Today, it's probably up to
Yeah.
2 million.
So we haven't given up on it. We hope that things will stabilize and that, you know, funding can be acquired to make that a reality, because everybody likes that idea.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that's a great idea, and we'd love to see that happen too.
Would be cheaper to open the bridge, the big openings and bring it on, satellite. That would be cheaper. And cool.
It would be very nice.
Literally cool.
Literally cool. Goes along with the sitting and everything. All right, our next item is the recap of the MAHDC training workshop, Connecting with Your Community.
So that was held virtually, and Bethany and I both attended, and it was led by our colleague Fred Statura from the Maryland Association of Historic District Commissions. And we always very much enjoy those training opportunities that are organized by our colleague Kathy McKenney in the Community Development Office for the City of Cumberland. And always very good information gained. It's always a very good conversation with Mr. Statura. And we're in the process of scheduling a meeting with our finance department, because they get reports regularly whenever a property is being transferred. And probably about 2 years ago, we started this process when we would find out from the finance department that a property within the historic district was being transferred. We would take a note card, city seal on it, and we have a welcome note. That says, you know, welcome Frostburg, welcome to the historic district, we're here to support you, and here's how you can contact us. And thank you for investing in our community. And so we're revitalizing that initiative to make sure we don't miss one. And we feel that's just been something that's very effective. Another idea that came out of this training was, now that this is our first meeting in person since the onset of the pandemic. I'm really glad to see us all here again. This is nice. But what we'd like to do is, when this becomes a little more routine, we'd like to invite realtors and have perhaps a realtor open house one night during a regular meeting perhaps have a contractor open house one night. Citizens of the historic district open house. So we'd like to, do that kind of outreach. Just to, make sure everyone knows that we're not here to say no. We're here to support your efforts in preserving our heritage and your property values and, the historic integrity of our community. So those are things that have come out of that workshop and things that we have in the works and in plans for the future.
So would you send out like a flyer invitation to those groups that you mentioned?
Absolutely. Yes.
And then also, remember when, we used to, what was it, brochure, flyer or something, we used to put it in the words. Everybody who was in the historic district. Maybe we could do something like that, because, for people who property in the historic district, just telling them about the meetings and everything, just, and, or maybe, put this on there, just a link to this on the, there's all kinds of things you can do.
Sure. Another thing we've been doing a lot, and Bethany has just been so incredibly helpful with this and creative, is our social media posts. Those help a lot. And we're still doing things the old-fashioned way by sending stuff to the newspaper. We no longer have the Frostburg Express, but we have a Wednesday page. So we try to get all this stuff on a Wednesday page too. And that's tough sometimes because space is limited. Things get cut. But those are all things we're trying to do just to keep everyone aware and updated and
So,
in the know.
the city of Frostburg is a member of the Alameda County Chamber, correct?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yes.
That's another outlet, is to send things to the chamber to get.
Routine newsletter to,
Yeah, just like, the link to the historic district,
Sure.
you could put the invitation for contractors for the contractor open house, or for the realtor open house, since that's all, business related, and
Sure.
or you could put like a, kind of an ad in there saying, you're calling all specialty contractors or whatever.
We'd love to do that, absolutely. And to be perfectly honest, we've struggled a little bit with our website support. So much to the point that Bethany is a part of the committee searching for a new development.
New platform.
Speak to that a little bit.
Well, I would love to kind of redevelop our historic district page, because right now it's just kind of a static page that has the basic information with a couple links. And I'd really like to kind of beef up that page on the new website, so it's a little more interactive and, there's a lot more resources for, citizens that are thinking about buying in the historic district or already own within the historic district, so that's in the works as well. Lots of exciting things.
Something else we've been discussing in terms of arts and entertainment, but it also spread out to terms of Maryland Historic Trust and Enterprise Zone and Opportunity Zone, is that we want people to understand what kind of tax incentives are out there. Because sometimes those are really helpful, and the Maryland Historic Trust specifically has those for people who are doing renovations or updates in the historic district. So that's something else we really want to get the word out on, so people know it's there and they can take advantage of it if they want to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We do have buildings that are available right now, for example, the Pritchard Building. And having information that's readily available to the public about the kinds of opportunities that a builder or a developer might be able to take advantage of.
Absolutely. Sometimes these tax credits are a great way to leverage development and get it kick-started. So that's something we just want. It's the information we want people to have in their hands, because we want to see something happen there. We want people, to be able to take advantage of these things that are there. Working toward that goal too.
any new business?
I've noticed a couple of the projects we have approved, like, we approved the door on the front of where the bar monkey was, the lofts, that was replaced, and I don't know when, but that's the last time I ordered my basket, I looked. So that's been replaced. There's an old metal door. And I know they are working on the wall for Nancy Cotton's house. In fact, I think they might be doing the one next, working on the property next door too.
That is one big project. I go
I
past
think
that
it's
every
turned, I
day.
think it's turned into a lot more than what they anticipated.
Yeah. I noticed that they just had the block delivered today. To build the wall. Yeah, they've had a team working there for some time.
Any updates on the Oak Teak building?
Yes, as a matter of fact. So the owners have had difficulty finding reliable help. And there are challenges related to that because the back alley for a while was not accessible. So there was no way to put a dumpster down there.
But why was that not made accessible? Wasn't it there was an owner up the road that would not allow?
There was a legal issue, an easement that was perhaps not so clearly defined. And it took some survey and some legal work to get that open again. It is now. But in the meantime, workers had to haul debris in bins across Main Street and down to the property owner's dumpster on yet another property. Not conducive to efficient. So that was difficult, but that has worked out now, and they're moving forward. So what they've been doing, there were a lot of non-historic shed type additions put on, kind of one after one on the backside of the building. They've been cleaning out all the debris that was involved in those additions and cleaning out all the old finishes that were like carpet and wall covering that were damaged from time and non-use. I'm sure you can imagine it was molding.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, just environmental damage. So a lot of that work has been going on. They're not quite ready to present a renovation plan for a building permit or a sprinkler plan for approval for the Office of the State Fire Marshal, but they're getting there.
Yep, that's good.
So work will progress, work will continue to progress. I'm excited for that prospect. Those owners in particular have demonstrated their ability and their dedication to renovation and preservation. So I think we have something really good to look forward to there in the future.
All right. Well, if there is nothing further, do I hear a motion? Yeah. I'll second. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Hearing none opposed, we are finished for this evening. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Truly a pleasure to see you all in
Nice to see
person.
you all in person.
Yes, and I do like the new gates.
It's very nice, yeah.
Yeah, if you'd like to take a tour upstairs, we can take you upstairs and show you around.
I would love it.